Well, you there?
I'm there. I'm here. Hello, hello.
Well, we made it through the countdown of the initial Facebook Live of Bossier Watch, and that's amazing since this is the first time that we've really run and used this software. And hold on, we've got a B-52 flying over the tech bunker here.
Oh, the sound of freedom, as they say.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a couple of people watching already that I think I saw indicated on Facebook. Let's check here and see. So let's see what Facebook says here. Yeah, it looks like we've got about eight people watching.
How about that? We've only been, what, less than a couple of minutes, if that?
Yes, actually not bad at all. Let me get this up here where I can monitor it. Well, hey, we at least got our wives watching, so that's saying something.
Hey, there you go. I presume that number is going to grow exponentially, especially after we get to talking about a few subjects.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we're just kind of jibber jabbering here for a few more minutes, let some more people get along. But let's kind of explain who you and I are and kind of what the purpose of Bossier Watch is. So I'll start off. Of course, I'm Rex Moncrief. Most people know me from a lot of videos that I do online, fishing, political, and otherwise. So Duke, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, hey, I'm Duke Lowrie, lifelong resident of Bossier, born here and raised here. And I've always cared about our parish. I've always cared about what goes on in Bossier Parish. And, I think it's time that the folks of Bossier Parish have another method of receiving a little bit of information about things that's going on in their community.
Cool. Looks like Rusty Lombardino is watching as well. So let's acknowledge that. Let me see if I can make these cool little comment deals here pop up. Oh, look at there.
How about that?
Comment. So I can go in and pull select comments if we want to display them and all that. And let's
see. Right. So, let me add in here that part of this here was we wanted to get as much of the community involved, and this video here is our first shot at trying to let people know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and give them an opportunity to chime in on issues that are going on in the parish.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, hold on. We got to acknowledge Kara too. There we go. So, all right.
Well, we're on the right track when our wives are supporting us, right?
Exactly. We're doing something correct anyway. All right. So, and for everybody that's watching, again, we're fixing to get started here into the topics, but can y'all just kind of let us know via comment how this audio sounds? Make sure it sounds good to most of y'all that are watching. Let's see. Duke Rusty said, raise your cap just a little bit.
Well, he's going to want to see my bald head.
We're going for the glare look.
Yeah.
There you go. Kind of get the shadow out.
He wants to see my eyes. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're on a roll. We've got about 16 people watching so far. So minus our wives, that's 14 people. And so that's a pretty good start. All right. Gina says it sounds good. Kara says audio good. Kara wants you to take your cap off. That means the rest of us may have to put sunglasses on.
Yeah, we maybe in the next video. But I have to support LSU. Good times and bad. I am still a LSU supporter. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I don't blame you at all. All right, so let's kind of move into what the purpose and role of Bossier Watch is. Why we got the look, there's Miss Ann too. Squirrel. So let's talk about what the purpose of Bossier Watch is, kind of how we got this started. You and I have talked about this and had this idea for quite a while. And my theory is, and my roadmap for this is, to be able to share things that happen in Bossier politically that don't make the newspaper, things that people talk about kind of among themselves, the good old boy network, all that sort of thing. What we want to do is just bring a little bit of that to light, have some discussion on it, allow people to come into the interviews as we progress with this, and just people that maybe aren't politically connected be able to come in and have an interview with us and express their opinion. So Duke, why don't you kind of tell us your idea and vision of this too?
Yeah, and it's the same. And the thing is over the years in my life in Bossier, with my experiences as a fireman in Bossier, you can't be a public servant and not find yourself in politics. There's no way to do it. And as well, after I left that service and moved on and got involved in politics, and I ultimately kind of dragged you a little bit into that realm, and you sunk your teeth into it. And there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and there's a lot of issues and things. And I tip my hat to you for the work that you do in researching things. And you and I kind of always click on trying to find out the why of things. And that's what a lot of people don't get, is the why of things, and for the regular guy and girl out there, they don't have time to go to a school board meeting. They don't have time to go to a police jury meeting. They don't have time to look up, a legislative bill. They don't have time to go to a city council meeting and cut to the chase on all of these issues. And in some cases, just like kind of what you've been bird dogging lately, in some senses that's fed upon. Meetings are held at times that are not convenient for the general public, and those issues need to be discussed. And the mainstream media, I guess you could say, or the normal media, doesn't typically cover things in detail and give you enough detail to where a regular person can chew on it. And I think this is going to be a way that we can put information out there to the public and allow them to get the other side of the story, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I guess I'll just tee up the first topic that just rattled off the top of my head. Well, tonight there's a meeting going on. As a matter of fact, it's probably still going on. I think it was supposed to start about 6 or 6:30, and that would be the Republican women. And correct me if I'm wrong, Duke, because you're still on the Republican PEC. Weren't they going to have some kind of joint meeting, meet the candidate or something?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they did. I would say that the new chairman of the Republican Party of Bossier decided upon his own to do a joint meeting with the Republican women of Bossier. And while I don't necessarily have a problem with that, I think that maybe the other members of the Republican Party of Bossier, the elected members, should have been given consideration as to whether or not to have done a forum together. But that's one topic of many, and in some senses, I'll throw it back at you. You've kind of been following some stuff with Cypress Black Bayou, haven't you?
Well, absolutely. It's kind of one of those things where not a lot of people have paid real close attention to the Cypress District for all these years, because they're appointed bureaucrats, so none of them are elected. And they have their meetings up there at the Cypress District up at Cypress Lake. And, they're kind of out of the way. They get to do their own thing. And honestly, there's not a whole lot of people that tend to go to those meetings unless, because the Cypress District is a taxing authority, unless there's going to be a possible millage increase or fee increase or whatever. And it's kind of hard to explain to people. Once you start paying attention to what that district is up there doing, it's absolute insanity. I mean, we've got 2 lawsuits now going on against the director.
Hold up. Hold up. See, it's so easy. You and I have these discussions and we talk about these issues and we can get carried away, but that's going to be for another show in the near future where we're going to dive deep into that. Yep. And kind of try to spell that out for the citizens, especially, I guess you could say, the citizens that live on the lake, namely being me, one of them. But there's a lot of topics that we're going to cover. And,
Absolutely.
you know, as we're putting this out, I mean, just disclosure, I mean, I'm very conservative. I am Republican, and I know you're as conservative as I am. You're hardcore as well. And this show and this process of that we're going through here and what we're doing is we're going to try to make it beneficial to everyone. It doesn't matter party affiliation, but full disclosure, you and I are both conservative, Republican. I mean, all the way. I doubt there's other people that are as conservative as we are.
Yeah, and I want to make that crystal clear to everybody too, is that the goal of Bossier Watch is not to make this necessarily a Republican slash conservative, echo chamber. What we're trying to do here, everybody that's watching, is we're trying to get information out there based on fact, based on the meetings, the meeting video, the documents and everything, and of course put our opinion and what we see as the things that are actually going on in the political community. And you're right. So again, I'll circle back to the Cypress board up there. A lot of people don't realize it doesn't just affect the lake property owners and the lakefront owners and the homeowners on the lake. That district has taxing authority, not to get too far off in the weeds, but that district has taxing authority over 3/4 of Bossier Parish. So it literally affects everybody. And so you're right, wanted to kind of tease it out a little bit, but in some of the upcoming shows that we're going to do, we're really going to dive into that.
Yeah, and the other thing is I know you and I have personally talked about this when we were planning, going live and putting the show together and putting out there, that this isn't, our intent is not for this to be a gotcha type of platform. That's not the idea. The idea is to get public engagement, to inform citizens on the issues and what's going on, and provide it in a way that is palatable to the citizens that don't have an opportunity to get engaged, let's say, during the day, during a meeting of one of the governing bodies. And I would say as well too, just like you and I have talked, that any elected officials, anybody involved in the political process that's making decisions on behalf of the citizens, I mean, you're welcome to chime in, come on board. We'll bring you in and put you in a video picture just right here beside us, and we'll go at it. And we can discuss the issues. You know what? It might be that your side of the issue is the right side of the issue and the way it needs to be. It may be that the general public's view or our view of it, and we may not enlighten us. Show us where we're wrong. Show us why. Tell us why this is the best. And the public, if there's an issue that the public wants to dig into, wants to have an answer to, Rex, I know you're not scared, and it ain't a matter of who's got the strongest backbone, but if folks in the public want a question answered and want it to be asked, we're willing to do that.
Absolutely. I think, and you hit on one point there, one very good point, is that it's not about being scared or whatever, but there is some truth to the fact that some of these government entities will do their best to try to intimidate folks when they try to speak out or shine a light on what's going on. And, that's happened recently. Again, I keep circling back to the Cypress board because that's what I've been focused on, but that's happened recently to many of the people that are involved in sharing information about the Cypress board up there. They do their best to intimidate. We just released a video earlier on Bossier Watch, a little 1-minute deal showing what a lot of the meetings look like when people show up. You've got lawyers for the board sitting there telling people that, they don't get to ask questions and they need to sit down. I mean, it just gets insane sometimes. So people have to be aware of that. that when you speak up, sometimes there might be some repercussions or blowback. You just have to be prepared for that. But once you shine the light on these government groups and people and politicians, things start changing.
Yeah, you saying that, you remind me of two things in my life historically. I remember one time someone in a position of authority told me, they said, Duke, said, you know what? You're top water. They said, one of these days that bass is just going to come up and going to just swallow you whole. And that was a threat. It was a veiled threat, but it was a threat. And ultimately, they did come after me, and they were able to get me in their way. And when you come to that crossroad, you have a decision: either you stiffen your backbone up and you fight, or you go and lay down. Well, I stiffened my backbone and I fought. And we need a lot more of that today in our society, and that's not a right or a left issue. That's just a societal issue, and people on all sides need to stand up.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, and again, I'm circling back to the Cypress District one more time, but part of the reason, and I've told a lot of people that are in this Friends of Cypress Black Bayou organization and all that at some of the meetings, I've told people, look, it's our fault that they're able to get by with this because we haven't been holding them accountable. And when these politicians, do these things that seem outlandish once you dig into it, well, it's our fault because we keep re-electing them. And, to throw another teaser out just a little bit for some future episodes, people might be surprised at which politicians we're actually talking about.
Oh, absolutely. If folks knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. They would be shocked. And, in the future, I think we will have a good dialogue about that. And this thing goes to the legislature. We're not going to just stop right here, but in Bossier Parish. But if you're an elected official in Bossier Parish, you should not have a problem in explaining why you took a position or why you did what you did in regards to any subject. I mean, today, you told me, you said, for example, you said, I'm not ever going to say anything that I wouldn't be willing to put on a billboard. Well, you know what? Our politicians should be the same way.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there hasn't been anything to hold them accountable, and when it's all of our fault, yes, it is in a way, because we don't hold our politicians to account. We don't.
Yeah, you're right. And so hopefully what we're trying to do with this show and the posts and all that is to help hold these politicians accountable when they do these actions at meetings that aren't broadcast on video. Even our Bossier Parish Police Jury, they don't broadcast their meetings live yet. I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't. I know Barry Butler's in here. He made a comment earlier, and I know Barry's been going to some of the meetings to try to video, and I, of course, have attended some of them, but they schedule these meetings in the middle of the afternoon most of the time. They do that on purpose because that's when, most working folks are actually working. They can't always attend these meetings. And they might take minutes, but as we were talking about earlier, legally, the minutes really just have to be a summary. They don't have to be super detailed. And so they're able to get by with this. And, I'm hoping in the future as we progress with this that we'll be able to have a team together to actually go to any of these meetings that aren't recorded or published live or whatever, and just roll the video and hold them accountable. It really doesn't take us saying anything outlandish because their own words and actions speak for themselves when they're doing things that most of the time the public might not necessarily agree with.
Absolutely. And you, for example, you have a job. You're self-employed. You're trying to provide a living for your family, and you need to be able to work and do a job. And unfortunately, doing what we're doing right now doesn't pay the bills, and doing this here is providing a public service. And what, segueing off of what you just said, the public can help us by going and taking videos, gathering information. You know, they can email it to us, they can share it to us, you know, and as well, the public servants, you know, the elected officials. If there's a question, we can forward it to them. You know, a lot of people don't want to go directly to the public official, you know. We just got to get a little bit more discussions going out there.
Yeah, and to give a good example, the video that I posted on Bossier Watch earlier, that 1 minute video of one of the district meetings with the attorneys and the CPA and auditor saying different quotes and all that sort of thing. I didn't actually shoot most of that video. There were only a couple of scenes in there that I actually shot. Most of that video was provided by Renee Hall, who was at that meeting. And of course, she sent it to me, and then I was able to do a little video editing magic to put that kind of stuff together. So you're absolutely right. Everybody's got a phone in their pocket. A lot of people have an iPhone or a good Android phone with a camera. It is absolutely legal to video those public meetings. You can record the audio, you can record the video. As a matter of fact, whether it's the police jury, the Bossier City Council, the Cypress District, the school board, they have to accommodate everybody that wants to record, as long as you're not interfering with the actual business of the meeting. That's the law. And so, as people hopefully start going to these meetings and pay closer attention, pull out the phone, pull out the camera, shoot the video, get the audio. We'll be glad to help report on it, talk about it, post it, and all those things that we need to do. I'm taking a look at some of these comments here too. So.
Yeah, and on top of what you said about folks taking videos for us and sharing information, they can as well help by tagging friends and, sharing our videos, sharing the information, and inviting friends to Bossier Watch, and, get more community involvement, get more folks on board with this. And, don't hesitate, chime in. I'm not sure if you put a link in the post, Rex, but did you? I don't think you commented on that. I know you said that the public would be able to get on the video and talk, and if any of the folks out there were so inclined, they would end up being able to get on the video and ask a question and talk about things. And
yeah, well, let me play. Let me see here. I'm playing with this new software here. Okay, so for those of you that are watching, and I want to address Huey Long. Doesn't have a profile picture, but Huey Long put a comment up. Let me address that, and then we'll talk about this. And so his comment is about Lynn Lawrence, who is a local attorney, wrecking the DA's vehicle, and the news has stopped covering. We don't want to go too far in the weeds on this yet, because honestly, we don't have much information. He's right. The news isn't covering it. It's like it just vanished.
That's funny. That makes me remember well, he's now an appeals court judge who had a email profile. I guess he was infatuated with Huey Long, but again, more backstory stuff, and we'll cover stuff like that down the road.
Yeah, we've got to do, so Mr. Huey Long, some of this takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of time. To be honest, we're aware of it. I've kind of put a post up about it on Bossier Watch on the Facebook page, but we got to do a lot more digging into that. And so, yeah, we'll be talking about it as much as we can, or if people share information with us and things like that. Duke, I want to circle back. So, you mentioned earlier, if people want to actually join one of the interviews, you can text, or all somebody has to do is send a text to 318-217-4511, and it might take a minute or two, but I'll reply back with a link that would allow you to join from your smartphone or from your iPad or even an Android phone, and you'll be able to join the show. On an iPhone, it's relatively easy, in an iPad, because giving access to the microphone and camera is pretty easy. On some of the Android phones, you do have to play with the settings a little bit to be able to get the audio and video. And it doesn't take any special software. it pulls it up in Safari or Chrome on the Android or whatever, and you're able to access the meetings. Matter of fact, that's how you're in the meeting, correct?
Yeah, exactly. The same way that I am in the meeting is the same way that anybody else would be in the meeting.
Right. Okay. And so what'll happen is, just so folks know that are watching, and it looks like we're up to 39 people watching live right now. That's not bad. So you send a text or somebody that might want to be on the show and sit here and chat with us and voice your opinion. Send a text to 318-217-4511. You'll get replied back to with a link and some instructions. Just kind of view the instructions real quick. And there will be a link there. You click that link or tap on it from your phone or your iPad. You can do this from your computer. And it should bring you in. Now, while we're in the middle of a live show, honestly, I'm a tech guy, but I don't have time to troubleshoot if we can't get your audio and video working. And so if that happens, then we may have to work on that after the show so you can come on another episode. But there's the number right there for anybody that wants to come on.
Yeah, and like earlier, you started touching on a lot of the issues to come down the road, and there's a lot of jaded subjects that people are just like that wreck that had happened, that want us to dive off into things again. There's only so much time in the day. You have to provide a living for your family. I have to as well as mine. And community involvement, and that's part of what this is about, is getting somebody knows something about things that are going on. Share them. This is Rex, you may want to talk about it. You and I have talked about it a little bit. You're more eloquent in the way that you say it, but this is media, and we're basically reporting on subject. Obviously we're not trying to replace the media. I mean, this is just you and me, regular guys. But the TV 3, 6, and 12, you're not going to see it on there.
No, you're not going to get the what I call kind of the down and dirty of it. A good example, again, going back to the Cypress deal, I keep teasing that, but Channel 3, KTBS, did an article on the lawsuit against the executive director, Robert Berry, up at the Cypress District. And they actually did a pretty good job of explaining that in their article. But the one thing that they left off was, at one of the recent police jury meetings, Renee Hall and there were several other people came up there to voice their opinions during the public comment period to the police jury. And they actually were calling for the police jury, and again, not just Renee, there were about 6 or 8 people that stood up to voice their opinion, but they were actually calling on the police jury saying, hey, y'all need to ask for his resignation. Well, instead of the police jury doing that, they turned it over to the DA's office and had the DA's office, who is legally supposed to enforce these type of things under state law. The DA's office filed a lawsuit against Robert Berry and the Cypress District. Now here's where that's interesting. When you read the statutes for what we call the dual office holding or incompatible offices, that's actually against the individual, not the entity, the government entity. And so that was kind of interesting. And number 2, because they filed against the Cypress District, that means that the law firm hired by the Cypress District to the tune of 6 figures a year now gets to be, and I'm no lawyer, but gets to be kind of the primary or lead counsel in this case. So it's actually costing taxpayers more money to try to enforce the law. And Channel 3, while they did a good job reporting, they didn't even mention that, didn't even touch on that.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things, that the general public will never even know about unless they just by chance happen to come across somebody that understands the subject matter or by chance gets exposed to the subject matter. But again, that's another deep dive that we intend to do in one issue down the road. And you and I have talked, we plan to jump around on issues respective to different areas of the parish. That issue, like you said, it affects more than just the landowners on Black Bayou and Cypress. There is a taxing district, for example, dealing with that issue that, it extends into Bossier City. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know that they pay taxes on what is going on up here. But moving on past the political aspect of it, which I'll say one more thing on the political aspect on it. If you're running for office and you want to have exposure to the public here and gain attention, we already have a pretty good following, and we encourage you to come on. Tell us why you think you should be elected. And it's not limited to just Republican, or Democrat. I mean, even if you're an independent or whatever, we encourage you to come on and talk. We're not going to say that we're not going to ask you a tough question, but we're not going to be unfair. Agreed?
Yeah, well, we talked about this earlier, that we don't want this to be an echo chamber. I agree with you 100%, and of course we talked about it too, is that, yeah, anybody that wants to come on the show and voice their opinion, reasonable opinion, absolutely welcome. That applies to politicians, everyday tax-paying, hard-working folks, doesn't really matter. Now let me show you this too. So I've got this Bossier Watch at Proton Mail up. So I'm going to add that one up there on the screen for just a second, and I'm also going to add the bossierwatch@gmail.com. People who are watching, or you can share this out, can send an email to either one. Here's the difference. The Bossier Watch at Proton Mail, if somebody wanted to send us some whistleblower type information, you can go to protonmail.com. Takes all of 3 to 5 minutes to make an account. It's completely free. You can send an email from your Proton Mail account that you create to Bossier Watch at Proton Mail. Don't put your name in it, anything like that. Attach whatever documents or whatever you need to it, and it's completely anonymous. And Proton Mail respects privacy. The email is completely encrypted. They can't even see the contents of the email. So we do realize that there are some folks around town that, don't want to rock the boat, but they've got some information that they might want to share. We've already had that happen a little bit. And so this is a way that people can do it. If you just got, regular old information, you're not that worried about it, then just send it to bossierwatch@gmail.com if you want. And we absolutely will check those. We'll take a look or try to research or whatever, and maybe do a show on some of these topics.
Yeah, and segueing off of that, I'd said in my last comments that we were going to kind of get off of the politics just a bit. And while you and I both are naturally, moths to the flame on the politics, but we also have a lot of other interesting things that we want to delve into as well too. Like outdoor news and fishing. I mean, you're an avid bass fisherman, and I'll admit I was never as good as you, but I tell you what, let's me and you put our skills against each other when it goes to bird hunting. I mean,
I'm pretty sure you'll have me there, hands down, no doubt about that. Well, look, that brings up a good segue too. So, yeah, you and I both are avid outdoorsmen. I don't hunt as much as I used to. I'm primarily into bass fishing and all that now. But a good topic along that line is the Salvinia situation. And we all know how bad it is at Bistineau. Part of Bistineau is actually in Bossier Parish. It's getting bad, of course, at Cypress Lake. They're battling it there, and on the Black Bayou side over, where you're living and all that, where your house is. So those are things that absolutely have a political tie-in, because right now the Salvinia problem, the people in charge of it are the wildlife and fisheries. And it is a big problem. I'm not going to take them to task too much on it, but there are some issues there, and that stretches, like I said, down into Bistineau and into other parts of Bossier Parish as well, and we want to tackle some of those topics, and I'm sure there's something on the duck hunting side too, things that we need to discuss and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it ends up in Baton Rouge in the decision making on, waterfowl as well as the Salvinia and wildlife and fisheries, and hopefully, we'll have a show or two in the future, delving into those issues. I know historically in your past, you had a lot of involvement in, the bass fishing. I don't know. Did you professionally bass fish? I never knew that.
Actually, yes, I did. So just to touch for that on a second. So I've tournament fished and bass fished since I was 14 years old. My dad got me in a bass club, and he decided that was too much work, but I love tournament fishing. So even at 14, he would take me to the lake, drop me off, come back and get me later. And so I grew up bass fishing. Eventually, I fished a lot of local and regional tournaments and all that. And not that I'm any great tournament fisherman, I just love tournament fishing. And most of the time I donate my money. That led into a 30-minute television show based out of Monroe that I did with a friend of mine that we've known each other since childhood. He moved on to the Wild Turkey Federation. I moved on to actually building boats and moved up to North Arkansas. And so long story made short, yeah, I literally used to fish for a living, build boats for a living. I've always done the tech stuff. And so that's kind of and I've always hunted too, but that's kind of the short end of it for me. My first love is bass fishing after my wife and family, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love fishing as well, but I think I love chasing those ducks just a whole lot better.
Yeah, so Heath just popped in while we're rattling off here. And so, yeah, we'll go ahead and, absolutely, Heath, we'll go ahead and remind everybody that there is a Friends of Cypress Black Bayou meeting Thursday night, 6 p.m. Heath, if you're still watching, that is confirmed at is it First Baptist in Benton? Confirm that for me, Heath, if you can, in the comment. Friends of Cypress Black Bayou is a 501c3 organization. It's composed not just of property owners around the lake, but other people from Bossier Parish. I'm a member of it and all that. And so we're having a meeting. I'll be talking about the $3 million bond and debt issue with the Cypress Black Bayou board that was done in 2015. And then there's some other topics, of course, the lawsuits and some other things going on. So we want to make sure and invite everybody to come to that meeting and bring a friend. We'll be following all the legal social distancing protocols and all that kind of good stuff. So good point there, Heath. 6 p.m.
Yeah, and again, for everybody out there that's watching and or will see this video afterwards, know that in our future videos we already have commitments from a bunch of elected officials that are going to come on and that believe in community involvement and want to see more folks get involved and participate. And there's politicians that don't want sunlight to shine, and there's politicians that do. And we think it's imperative that the public knows the difference between the two. And that's, again, part of why we're doing this.
Well, we may or may not want to mention any names yet, but we do have, let's see, a couple of our politicians maybe on the federal side, a couple on the state side. And of course, any of our local politicians that want to come on and speak or do an interview, that's fine too. Do we want to tease out any of the other topics that we've kind of got lined up? And I'll do my best not to get down in the weeds on them.
Yeah, no, man, it's hard because you just want to jump right on off in there on one of them, I know.
Yes, front and center.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I think we can talk about a few of them.
All right, so I'll just do a couple from my side. So I'm looking over here at my notes, everybody. So we're going to talk about this. It's actually two lawsuits, the DA, Skylar Marvin's office versus Robert Berry. Also, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry, his office has filed suit against Robert Berry. And look, the truth is, Robert's a nice guy. He's always been nice to me, but the law is the law and what's going on there. So we'll be discussing some of that. And then this $3 million bond issue, that's very interesting, and you can get way down in the weeds. We'll be discussing some of that. I think we're also going to discuss some issues maybe going on with the Republican PEC or what's changed since the election that, full disclosure, I ran and lost.
Yeah, the Republican Party at Bossier it has changed. It's changed a lot. And I don't think that your rank and file Republicans really kind of know what's going on. We're going to shine a little light on what's going on there, and I think we'll share some documents, video, audio, and the whole 9 yards. And it's interesting how some of these things link into other political bodies. we'll connect the dots on that in the future.
Absolutely. So let me reply to Heath here. So yeah, we'll absolutely sign it. Heath, if you're still watching, do you want to join in this evening, or you got other things, and we'll just put you on a future date? So if you're still there,
Yeah,
let me know.
it'd be a good test because, again, our first show here, that was part of the intent, was to have a little bit of trial and error, right, Rick?
Absolutely. This is kind of testing the waters with this episode, which is why we don't have another guest lined up tonight. We could have actually probably put that together, but I wanted to get in here with the new software and, kind of get a feel for it and all that. So let's see. Let me tell Heath he's definitely going to be put on the list. Let's test and see how the commenting works.
I'll fill the void a little while you're going on there. I mean, today was if you were born in the 70s and let's say in high school during the 80s, you were probably shedding a tear today. Eddie Van Halen passed.
Yes.
If you listen to the intro, you heard a little bit of that music. Let's hope that the Facebook police don't shut that down. But hate to hear that. I was listening to the song on the way home, and man, just memories. I kept, going back to high school days.
Yeah, little known fact, I grew up part of my childhood in Haynesville, of all places, which, is about an hour from here or so. And kind of interesting that, back when I was a kid, there were two bands that really influenced us as elementary, almost junior high kids, interestingly enough, and that was Van Halen and then AC/DC. And so I hated to see that Eddie Van Halen had passed away. Obviously, he was not a saint and had plenty of issues in his life, but there's no doubt the dude could play a guitar and was a crazy good musician. And the music of Van Halen absolutely inspired and was a big part of a lot of people's lives. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think some people might say, well, it shaped some folks in the wrong way, but I think it shaped a lot of folks in a good way as well, too.
Yeah. So looks like Barry Butler's kind of like me. He wants to absolutely get down in the weeds. So, of course, Barry, let's see. Now, refresh my memory. Did Barry get reelected to the PEC, or did he lose like I did in the last election?
No, Barry got pushed out just like you did, and as well as other, and not to get too far ahead, but as some folks know, there was a concerted effort to run a bunch of folks out of town. And anyway, we'll dig deeper into that down the road. Barry, loved Barry to death. Barry's a good guy. Barry is a numbers guy, and you could always count that he would be there in the fight right beside you.
Yeah, and so I want to make this, clear again and again, full disclosure. I was on the PEC the last term for 4 years. As a matter of fact, it was you and a couple other folks that encouraged me to get on the PEC. I actually enjoyed it, learned quite a bit. I was on the board of elections supervisors for I think about 3 of those 4 years. And so, this isn't any animosity towards the PEC. All the guys that are on there that I know, personally they're good guys, but yeah, let's just tease it with there's some shenanigans going on. And I know you may have a little insight into that, and I know I've got a little bit as well. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, like right now, we're seeing some of the issues being on the board of election supervisors, and a lot of folks in the general public, they don't know what that means to even be on the board of election supervisors, the structure, what you do. But suffice to say, in that role, you dealt with mail ballots. We're seeing a lot of stuff in the mainstream media about mail ballots, and that's even a subject we can delve into. A lot of people don't understand the difference in the terminology when you talk about mail ballots and you talk about other, absentee ballots. They don't understand the terminology, and there's a difference between those things. And even in Louisiana, I will admit Bossier Parish does a wonderful job.
Yes.
I've seen it firsthand. You've seen it I have nothing but kudos for our folks. But that's not the case in every parish in our state.
Correct. And expand even further, certainly not the case in many states in the country. And so, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Literally being sequestered in pretty much every election for the last 3 or 4 years. I know firsthand what goes on up there. And both Stephanie Agee, who's our registrar of voters, and Jill Sessions, the clerk of court, you know, those offices work together along with the Board of Election Supervisors to help make sure that these elections go as smoothly as possible. And I will absolutely attest to the fact that those ladies run a tight ship up there in both of those offices. So I've got full confidence in them, but you're right, it's other parishes.
No, yeah, nothing but respect for them. And I would contend that the people that want to, um, you know, take advantage of the mail ballot process, it's not that they couldn't do it in Bossier, but why would you do it in Bossier when you have the percentiles of party affiliation, what it is? It's not worthwhile to do it here. So we probably would never see it here.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it couldn't be,
Right.
you know, and that again is a subject that we can talk about down the road. And I would say to the viewers and the public, you know, even today, we noticed a lot of Facebook user groups were being disabled, shut down. I mean, if you even had a post regarding anything that was, say, conspiracy theory or, I mean, they just needed any reason whatsoever to shut it down. I mean, they were blanket shutting them down. They're trying to say that it was all Q related, but there was a lot of it that wasn't Q related.
Right. Yeah, and, you know, again, we were talking about this earlier. You know, unfortunately, Facebook is where most people are at, really, you know, and at least most adults and most, you know, people our age that get out and vote and pay attention and all that sort of thing. And so just like, you know, our focus, at least for the foreseeable future for Bossier Watch, is going to be on Facebook Live videos. We're going to do some YouTube stuff and all that too. But we're doing Facebook because that's where the vast majority of folks are right now in the U.S. and across the globe, and it's where you can get the most attention. The downside is, well, it's Facebook, and it's run by Mark Zuckerberg and his staff, and we all know that they do have a left-leaning bias. Now, the truth is they do shut down some left-leaning things too. I can say that for a fact, but they absolutely are shutting down anything you know, that they feel has even a slight lean to the right, or at least they're putting you in, you know, the infamous Facebook jail, you know, for X number of days or that sort of thing. And so there are some things that you can do technically. You know, if I can tell you that you probably should make sure that you have another login and password for Facebook. Just read the terms of service first, because it probably violates their terms of service to do that. But you want to make sure that if you control a group or a Facebook page, you know, like Bossier Watch or Duke, I know you've got a couple that you're spinning up and have going. You want to make sure that if something happens and you get put in Facebook jail, that you've got a way to actually get back in and help control or moderate those groups and the content on your pages.
Yeah, and I'm just going to jump in here and I'm going to plug you, Rex. I mean, I've seen your work over the years, and you know, for everybody out there, I'm going to plug Rex. You know, smartergeek.com. If you've got tech issues or what have you, I mean, you need to let Rex work on your problem. If there's anybody that can fix it, it's him. And he's personally done work for me, and I can't compliment him enough for what he's done.
Well, I appreciate that, and you know, it's one of those things where I've been blessed and have a couple of natural talents, and one of them is just tech stuff and doing this sort of thing. It's like, you know, when we decided to do these Facebook Lives, I started researching software and platforms to do it, and we're using some software called the Ecamm Live right now. We're actually using the beta version, which allows people to come in without having to install any software, which is a great thing that they've just released. But I've been blessed, and I just have a natural talent for kind of picking up on this stuff, and I like politics. And so those two kind of go hand in hand, because the great thing about social media is, as much as Facebook aggravates us, it gives us a platform. It's the equalizer. The internet is the great equalizer. Well, you got the dogs in the background.
Yeah, my son brought a new pup in, and he's a little active.
Yeah. So what it allows us to do is to be able to get the information out. We don't have to wait on the traditional news media. We all know there's a ton of fake news out there. We've all heard that. At least social media, at least till they shut you down, you've got a platform to get out there and be heard by a large group of people, and that's what we're planning on here. We've got a way to get information out to folks, and truthful, factual information. Yes, we're going to put a little spin and our opinion on it, but we're going to deep dive into a lot of these things that some of the politicians don't necessarily want to come to light.
So Rex, you obviously are doing the technical. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, that you are the technical guru and us doing what we're doing here. And my contribution is just I'm helping contribute stories and issues, and as well as background and history. I know where a few bodies, as you might say, are buried, and we're going to let the light shine in. So in future shows for the folks that want to follow and want to see, we talk generally about how we're going to make announcements of subject matter, and we're going to start a countdown clock like we did at the beginning of this show. Maybe you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so here's what folks can do, and we'll start wrapping up this show probably here in a little bit, because I think we're right at close to an hour, about 56 minutes in. So what folks can do, a couple things is first, of course, make sure and like and follow the Bossier Watch page, and comment, tag friends, share some of these articles and videos out. Even if you disagree with it, that's fine. Comment. We're not going to sit there and just denigrate somebody or whatever. We will get into a healthy debate about it, but you don't always have to agree with us. But share it out and tag your friends. That's number one. Number two, we've got a page, our website going, so let me see if I can share this out the right way. Yeah. That's at bossierwatch.org. Now, I don't have a ton of content here, but I do have the Facebook feed pulling in here. We're going to have some articles posted up here so we can do long form, more news type stuff. For instance, like that bond issue, which has a lot of weeds that you can get into. So the long form of that will be posted here and all that. So you can check out the website. There is, if somebody feels real generous and they want to help out, because this does cost money, you can click on the donations tab, securely donate, and that's going to go into additional hardware and equipment and software and different things that we need to actually pull this off and make it look at least semi-professional. So folks can do that, and then I'm going to switch us back over here. You can also, I'll put the email addresses back up there. You can send emails with information. Also forgot to mention on the website, there's a newsletter link. You can click there and sign up. We're going to be sending out a periodic newsletter once a month, twice a month. We're not going to spam everybody. And so you can stay informed that way and forward those newsletters to friends of yours. So basically, folks can help us out mainly by sharing information to us and then sharing our information out to others.
Absolutely. And, it's going to be an adventure, and I couldn't think of anybody else I'd rather be standing shoulder to shoulder with going forward with it.
Well, look, I've had a blast so far just doing this first episode, just to kind of get our feet wet into this. So let's let everybody know real quick before we sign off of here. How soon are we going to try to do the next one? A few days? Next week? Any idea yet?
I think we could probably put out the next episode within the next week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That'll get me through the Thursday evening meeting with the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou. I know you've got some feelers and some communications out there with some of the upcoming guests, and we're trying to nail down schedules and all that. So.
Yeah. Scheduling right now with so much going on, and we really kind of didn't talk about that, that the election's coming up, and the national issues, the ramifications. I mean, there is a lot going on, and some of the folks that we're going to get in, they need to talk to the viewers that we have on here, and yeah, so scheduling, and that's a big deal.
All right, well, we're at, what are we at? Right at about an hour right now. So what do you say we go ahead and wrap this one up, and we'll finish planning and getting everything ready for the next episode. And if something happens between now and then, we may jump back in and do a quick episode or something like that, quick show, and we'll just take it from there.
Sounds good. Go Tigers.
All right, go Tigers. So we're going to sign off, everybody. We appreciate everybody that commented. We were averaging over 20 people for an hour. That's actually pretty good. So we'll see y'all next episode.